In honor of Father's Day, we had the privilege of interviewing America's favorite dad, YouTube sensation Rob Kenney.
Rob decided to tie his tie and put it up on the internet, and it turned into a full-time business with millions and millions of views and followers, and his story starts right now. Welcome back to the Cypress Room, where we dive deep on influencing with integrity. This is a podcast for creators, and I am Christina Mascari.
And I'm Maggie Honeycutt, and welcome back to the Cypress Room. Today, we have such a fun guest that we are going to interview. I'm so excited. I actually found his content on the internet when I needed to fix a running toilet. No joke. And so today on the podcast, we have Rob Kenney, and he is the force behind the Dad How Do I channel on YouTube. He's also on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok doing all the things. And we're so excited to have him in the Cypress Room today. So welcome, Rob.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I'm honored to be with you guys. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing 4 years in, so we're learning together.
Well, we're excited to hear about your journey, and we cannot believe that you said yes to be on this channel. So we're just so thankful for your yes today. And before we jump into the interview, we're going to read just a little snippet of Rob's bio. Rob Kenney is the man behind Dad How Do I, a YouTube channel he launched in 2020 after a nudge from his daughter. This platform offers practical advice and paternal wisdom. After a childhood marked by an absentee father, Rob was inspired to teach life skills, share dad jokes, which are some of my favorite jokes, and offer heartfelt guidance for others who had the same experience. I love that bio.
Yes.
Hopefully I can live up to it. So, yeah, the part about my dad, I always struggle with that because I think my dad started out well, and I share that in my book about my dad starting out well. And unfortunately, there was a window of time where it was a struggle because he did choose to leave. My mom couldn't take care of us. I'm one of 8 kids, and I'm number 7. And it's just a tough time. And it took me a long time to forgive my dad. And that's the main reason I even share the story about my dad is to talk about the importance of forgiveness, because it's been so huge in my own life. So anyway, I just want to clarify that, because I think there's times where, people think I'm bashing my dad. Boy, I don't want to bash my dad, because my dad did start out well, and he's passed now, and we reconciled, and he became a Christian in the end, and we were able to. I believe I'm going to see him again.
Yes, I love that. And I really connected with your content and the mission behind it because I had a very similar story about my dad growing up. He just wasn't around and showed up in the best way that he probably knew how, but it wasn't in the traditional nuclear family type of situation. He left our family as well and was absent for a large portion of my formative years. So when I saw your content and read about the mission behind it, it was really impactful for me because I could relate to it. So I just want you to tell us a little bit more. Like, let's go back to the beginning and tell us about the genesis of how you went from that experience to deciding to create content like this and how that all came to be. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of factors. I thought of the channel a couple years before I actually put it up. My wife and I, we've been married for 33 years now, and we raised 2 adults, and we always wanted to raise good adults, and not good kids. We wanted to raise good adults, that would be functioning and that would people liked to be around, but they also could provide for themselves, and they don't live in my basement, and so that was kind of a big part of who I want. When my dad left, that seed was kind of planted way back then that, if I ever get this opportunity, I want to do it right. But life is hard, it gets tough. And I had some struggles. And then thankfully, Jesus rescued me from that in my late 20s. And I think I need to give that background just so you understand. My goal in my life was not to be wealthy. not to have a big house, not to have fancy cars. It was to raise good adults. I was all in on, and so I married
Wow.
well,
Wow.
and then we raised our adults, and then our kids were out of the house. And so I honestly, that was my goal. I wasn't like pursuing these other things. And so that was my goal. And I'm like, now what, Lord? I'm a fairly young man, my early 50s at the time, going, what am I going to do now? I got some life to live. And so I started thinking, and I thought of the name Dad, How Do I? Because I pictured my kids in one of the rooms yelling, Dad, how do I? And then I would come running and fix whatever problem they had. But I'm grateful that the channel's turned into so much more than that, that I'm able to share wisdom and share dad jokes and share other things, because there's more to being a dad than fixing a running toilet, for example.
Yeah.
I thankfully learned how to do a lot of things, but I'm grateful for what the channel has become, that I'm able to share some of the wisdom that I've learned over the years, try to share stuff on money, because money's, important. We need it. It's a tool. You need to know how to manage it well. You shouldn't love it, but because it's the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Money isn't the root of all kinds of evil. The love of money is. And so I try to differentiate so people understand that you need to manage your money well, and the sooner you can learn that, the better. Anyway, I think so. I try to cover just about anything and everything that I've learned over the years, a lot of it the hard way, and just download it and get that information out for people that could use it.
Thanks for joining us in the Cypress Room today. Your support means so much to us, and we wanted to share a new way that you can invest in our community.
We now have our own store where you can get your Cypress Room merch like hoodies, shirts, hats, and more.
And not only can you rep the Cypress Room brand and its mission of influencing with integrity, but your purchase will directly help fund this channel.
That way we can keep bringing you interviews with your favorite creators and all the knowledge you need to help grow your brand and your business.
Our shop is linked in the description box of every video we make, and you can also view pictures of each product tagged in each video, and we really appreciate your support.
Love that. And I did read, so you started your channel in 2020, and then is it true that just a couple months later, your How to Tie a Tie video went viral? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I started my channel April 1st. So April Fool's Day was when I started it, of 2020. And the joke was on me. I didn't know it was going to be what it is. So I uploaded my How to Tie a Tie on April 2nd. And then, it kind of started to get out there. And then Reddit got a hold of it in May 20th or so, my son's birthday, right around that time. It just all of a sudden, I was thinking I was going to have 30 or 40 followers. Seriously, that's what I thought. I thought I raised two good adults, my wife and I. Now I'm going to raise 30 or 40 adults, and kind of we're going to have this tight community and kind of work through some things. And I'm going to try to download information and help. And then I was going to try to answer the questions. I wasn't planning to switch careers. I wasn't planning on this being what it is. And the Lord had other plans for it. So it went viral in May. My wife and I would be out walking early on and go, oh, wow, I just got 3 more subscribers. This is amazing. I'm up to 100 subscribers. And then, boy, in May, it was like, I just got 10,000 more subscribers. Now I got 600,000 subscribers. What is going on? What is happening to my life here? Because suddenly my face was everywhere. And I've always considered myself an introvert, but I think I'm introverted, but I'm also I got social anxiety. I think is more than being introverted. I've got social anxiety, and so I don't never like to give speeches. Don't call on me. I just want to kind of sit over here in my corner and not be noticed. And so it was terrifying for me when this thing blew up, because I couldn't put the toothpaste back in the tube, and my face was everywhere, and so now if you Google internet dad, it's me, and that's kind of scary, and it's kind of a big responsibility.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I read in one of the articles preparing for this interview, you talked about being like and I'm sorry if this is really vulnerable, but you said it somewhere else. So I'm just sharing. You said being like curled up kind of in the fetal position, just crying because you're this realization of, oh, I have this huge following now. What do you like? What am I supposed to do with it? Can you walk us through a little bit of what that is and why you decided to get up off the bed and stop crying and just submit to whatever had happened here that you were supposed to be doing?
Just to be fair, over my whole life, there's been times where I've been in a fetal position crying, wondering, what am I going to do next? But
Yeah.
this was bigger than that, where it was like, oh no, I honestly felt like God was blessing me with a fire hose, which was what it was just overwhelming. I'm like, make it stop. I don't know what to do with this, and I don't know that I can handle it properly. And so it was terrifying. And that was what it was. And I knew I was going to continue it in some capacity, but it was just overwhelming because I wasn't prepared for it. My wife and I didn't build a foundation and start and get a couple subscribers, and then where you would build a normal business where you're okay, we got that in order and this in order, and we have this vision for this. It was like, what just happened? Now I've got this thing in my lap with no foundation. And so that was terrifying to try to figure out and go after the fact to get a manager and to get people to help me with things because I needed it and I just didn't have the bandwidth to handle it. So it was terrifying.
In the beginning, were there a lot of like national like news outlets coming to you to do interviews and stuff like that? Were the influx of, requests you were getting, was it crazy big?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thankfully I was able to get in contact with a manager that managed all that for me. But I was, and it's funny because they said, because, interestingly, it was right around Father's Day too, right? So it's end of May, Father's Day is coming. So it's that added into the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and people want to hear from just a normal guy, I think is how it kind of happened. They just wanted to hear from how a normal guy was kind of coping with the pandemic. And so they told me, okay, Rob, we're going to set up to where you're going to do interviews 3 days a week. We'll dial it in where and you'll probably go back to back to back so we can get through all these. And that didn't work. It was 5 days a week, basically back to back to back interviews. And it was a lot of, it was the Today Show, Tamron Hall, a couple other ones that it's funny because I didn't know all this, but if you go with one, other people don't want to, they feel like they're second best. So then they don't interview you. So like Ellen, they wanted to interview me and they had a pre-interview and then I ended up going on the Today Show. So they didn't, anyway, all that was all new to me. I didn't know what I was doing. Kelly Clarkson, same thing. These different ones were reaching out, but they all kind of wanted the scoop, so to speak, the bigger ones. And so, and then I was on podcast after podcast and I was on, local TV too. And it's been a strange thing because it's not something I was prepared for. One thing that was cool, God, allowed me to, because we're in a pandemic, these interviews weren't in person. They were like this. And so I was able to stay grounded and look around and go, oh, that's right. I'm at home and that's my dog. And, so I didn't lose myself. I guess if I was being asked to go into a studio, that'd have probably been too much for me. I don't think I could have handled it at the time. I've since been in studios and stuff. I was on the Today Show with Hoda and Jenna around last Father's Day. And that was just surreal for me to be sitting there. But I handled it because I had, through little bite-sized chunks of all the different interviews, I was able to get myself under control, so to speak.
Yes. I feel honored that you are even here speaking to us, just seeing how far you've come and like what you started with, and that you're asked to be on the Ellen Show and the Today Show. And I think it just says something about your character that 5 years later, you're willing to sit here with a podcast that has 1,000 subscribers. So I just think that's a testament to who you are as a dad, to who you are as a person. So I just want to honor you for even saying yes to us today. And we feel so blessed that you're sitting here just sharing this insight of your story that I'm sure you've told dozens and dozens of time. I just think it just speaks to your character, and I wanted to note that.
Yes. And what I want to talk about next is, okay, so you started on YouTube with these videos, but I mean, now you are on 4 different social media platforms with large followings on all of them. So can you tell us about when you made the decision to expand beyond just YouTube, and what that looked like for you, and why you decided to expand beyond YouTube? Can you tell us a little about that journey?
Yeah, so you've heard that my daughter was a big part of things, especially early on. So she was a big part of that. That was she said we should probably be on Facebook. We should be on Instagram to help kind of point things back. And she even said TikTok too. I was hesitant to get on TikTok because my concern for the next generation is our attention spans being shrunk down to just give me a piece of it. Oh, I got to hear that. I got to swipe. I got to see that. I got to see that. I think we need some, I compare it to fast food. We all do settle for fast food when really we need a home cooked meal. And I think hanging out together is so powerful. Just hanging out. We're not doing a whole lot. We're just fishing, or we're doing something, where we're just hanging out. And we've gotten away from that. And so anyway, I put off TikTok for the longest time because of that. But now I'm on there because I feel like if I can point people back to some of my longer videos so that we can hang out together, I think that's important.
I love that. I love that your daughter is there kind of telling you, giving you some business strategy from a younger person's perspective that can help you, grow this business, grow your platform and your reach. So I think that's really cool. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to monetization and what that has looked like for this channel? Like, how I imagine you got monetized in those first couple of months. Is that true? Is YouTube still your main source of income? Do you do brand partnerships? Can you tell us about how this became a business and a source of income for you and your family?
Just to clarify too, so real quick, my daughter, after we'd done it for about a year and a half where she helped me, she finally said, I kind of want to have a normal dad relationship with my dad again. And so she decided she wanted to go do something else. And I'm like, I get it. Because all we were talking about was this instead of how she was doing in her life or her relationship with her husband or whatever. It was all focused on this. And so anyway, she no longer helps me. Unfortunately, I miss her help because she's very insightful and very good, but I get it. And so, so to monetization, I think that was your question originally. I didn't monetize at first. I wasn't planning to make money at this, and I let a lot of money pass by not monetizing until I finally, 2 months after I had a lot of views with no monetization, I decided I need to monetize because I am spending time doing this. I think my time's worth something. And so I think it's important to monetize. And I've been very particular. I've been sponsored quite a bit, and thankfully, but I'm very picky about who I allow to sponsor things. I let a lot pass by. I even had a very generous offer from, I'm not going to mention who it was, but I thought, I'm being overly cautious here, but I just think I can't, in good, fatherly advice, feel like I can recommend this. And so I turned it down. A lot of them don't get that far because right at the beginning I go, this isn't, what am I going to be talking about, a video game? I don't know. And so I've passed on those, which maybe in this, at some point it might be kind of fun for me to play a video game and you see how inept I am. So maybe that would be okay. But there's other, anyway, all that to say, yeah, I'm monetized. Thankfully, I kept my job for. I finally left my job at the end of 2023. No, 2022. Sorry. So I went all of 2023 with just relying on the income from Dad. How do I? Um, yeah. So I thought that was a good example to the younger generation that if something looks amazing, it doesn't mean you just. I had a career for 30 years. I don't think it would be wise for me to just walk away from that and go, okay, I'm going with this. And then it blows up on me. And so I hesitated for the longest time before I finally went all in.
So today, where does it stand in your business in terms of, you said that you left your full-time job and you're doing this full-time. Can you kind of, without, you don't have to share numbers if you don't want to, but if you could just do percentages, like where your income is coming from in terms of brand deals, maybe affiliate sales if you do that, and your actual content. Do you have a breakdown of percentages of that?
I don't have it broken down by percentages. Sponsorships are by far where I'm making the majority of my money. Yeah, I did pass over some views of some of the sadly early on, some of my videos that have millions of views. I didn't monetize those when they had their first couple million, and so and my views now are kind of down on YouTube. Part of it, I think, is because but my subscriber count continues up, so it just continues to grow, and so I think people want to support me, but then they don't necessarily watch the latest videos, and so it's a little bit of an enigma. I'm trying to figure out algorithms and stuff, and I'm turning 60 this year, so I'm a little kind of want to just relax a little bit, and so some of this stuff is like, how far do I dig into this, and do I have the mental capacity to do it, or do I need to get a younger person that knows this stuff to work with me?
Well, I know you probably don't know anything about me, and I'm going to try not to talk about myself too much, but I've been YouTubing since 2013, but went full time around the same time as you. Like around the pandemic, right before the pandemic, actually, God told me to go full time, which his timing is perfect. And so my channel took off in 2020, and I have like some of those views that are a million, have like 5 videos that have a million views, and that's what made me a YouTuber. And for the past 2 years, it's just like slowly trickling down and trickling down, and it's 10,000 views. I'm like, is this even worth making this video? And so I understand that enigma of starting off so big, and now it kind of like, well, what do I do next? What do I do with this platform? How do I keep going? And just to encourage you, like I put a video up 2 weeks ago, and for some reason it got picked up and has almost a million views in 10 days. And I'm doing the same exact thing that I did day one. So you just don't know. You just have to keep showing up. When I was looking at your channel, it is just different from how most people get started in content creation. Like the first video you made has 2.7 million views. Normally people are chugging along for 2, maybe 3, maybe 5 years before they ever get the thought of being monetized. So I know that like coming so hot out of the gate and having all these first videos getting millions of views, and now it seems like it's leveled out a little bit over the years. You're not getting the huge views that you used to, but you're still getting 10 to 20,000 people watching your videos. So can you talk about that, because that's an interesting journey that you don't see a lot, where someone is so big and now you're learning how to navigate the waters of like, how do I sustain this? What does it become? Going from being so big to like maybe now it's a little bit narrower in focus. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Trying to again, algorithms are a tricky thing. So it's hard to know. I still want to continue to put out good content that I think would be helpful for people that could use it. And so that's why I'm still running with that and trying to be faithful to what I think is good content for people that they could use, instead of, I've joked about this, instead of dressing up in a gorilla suit and running around trying to get views, I'm not going to do that. I'm, I'm trying to produce content that I think would have been useful for me as a young person trying to navigate life. And so I'm sticking with that. And I think eventually I think the views will come around, and I do see that, where I put out something and it gets no views, and then all of a sudden 3 months later it gets a bunch of views. I don't understand it. I honestly don't. And so I'm just trying to continue to do what I'm doing. And there's been a lot of people that have kind of uh, taken advantage, I guess, so to speak, where they pretended to be me. It's interesting
Oh,
trying
wow.
to. Oh my goodness, it's
Yeah.
kind of snaky.
Mhm.
And then there was even yeah. Anyway, somebody trying to say they were associated with me, and I'm like, what people, create your own thing, come up with your own idea. And so, but it is. I think my content still continues. So recently, this is mind boggling to me. I've been on interviews, you know, just about every country you can name. So it has been across the world. It isn't just the U.S. And just over the weekend, yeah, France has kind of picked it up now. And then, I mean, I've been on an interview in France before, but now I've got a bunch of comments from people from France, and then Algeria and Egypt. I got some comments from over the weekend, and can you put in Arabic subtitles? I'm like, I, I'm barely lucky to get this stuff up, the content up. I need to figure out Arabic subtitles? I don't know. I want to be helpful, and hopefully the information is useful to anybody and everybody. But some of the stuff is beyond my capacity to know how to do. So
Right. Do you have your channel? Because I know that's something that Mr. Beast does is he just because people were dubbing his channel anyways. So he
yeah,
took like he has his own Spanish channel, he has his own, Arabic channel. Do you have other channels that you're putting out that are just dubbed over?
I don't. And so,
Okay.
and early on, I had somebody in Russia do that, and he was dubbing my channel. And then I'm like, and you can see, as you know, a YouTuber, you can see your copyright saying, "Oh, this is 100% your content." And I could say, I don't like that. And so I don't like the fact that he's just doing it without requesting permission.
Oh, he
And
wasn't doing you didn't hire him. He was just doing
He
it.
no,
was
He was
just
just
no,
stealing
doing
your
the job.
content. Oh,
he,
okay.
it's me
Okay.
and him dubbing all my content.
Yeah.
And so I blocked his channel, and then he writes me back, or he writes me because he sees that I blocked him, and he writes me and goes, "I'm just trying to help the Russian kids. They need help too. Can you?" And the ironic thing, in a Gmail, his picture was me. His picture in Gmail that he sent to me, he forgot to change back to himself. So he was clearly pretending to be me. And,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, what? And so I said, here's the deal. I said, I'll unblock your channel if you make me the promise that you will not monetize the content. If you're strictly in this for the kids, like you say you are, here, yeah, I won't expect anything of it, but you don't expect anything of it. You don't monetize, we're good. Didn't hear from him again.
I bet.
And so
Yeah.
and so his content's still blocked, and people will come to me, Dad, why did you block the Russia channel? Don't you care about the Russian kids? And I said, and I try to explain it every so often just so people understand. I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but this is how it happened. He did it without my permission. I tried to make a deal with him, never heard from him again. So
Yeah.
what do you do?
Man, that's the type of things that I don't think about because I'm not I didn't get shot out over a rocket like you. So I have had people I actually had to stop running giveaways on my channel, which I hate because I used to give away I'm a furniture flipper, so I used to give away paint and paint sprayers and power
Hmm.
tools to help people, get further along in their journey. And it just so many people scamming, creating WhatsApp with my picture and being like, you won. And I even had a couple followers send them like $50 or $60 because they thought they were
Hmm.
paying for the shipping. And it was inundated every time. So I honestly haven't run a giveaway on my channel in 2 years. And it makes me really sad because there's no way with YouTube, you don't have DMs. So it's harder because people like want to believe that it's you when you're texting them or whatever. And it just makes me really sad that I can't do that anymore because there's so many people that want to take advantage of people and just make money off of, you know, someone else's likeness. It makes me sad.
Yeah. What I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you about though is, you know, this obviously your content appeals to a very wide variety of audience all around the world, even as you were saying. And I'm curious in your mind, why do you think it resonates with so many people? I mean, I do know YouTube is the place where people go for how to's, but in your feedback from the people who are watching, what do you think it is that makes them connect with your content?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I've thought about that a lot, trying to figure out what, because in my ignorance, I thought I was just showing people how to tie a tie, but I've got people crying watching me tie a tie, and so trying to get my head around that has been a little difficult. I think I've kind of chalked it up to, I think it's God's love coming through in my finite fallen way.
Mhm.
People are getting a sense of how, of the Holy Spirit, I guess, touching their hearts in
Mhm.
a tender way. And I think there's a lot, it really depends on the person, of course. I've got 80-year-old kids that watch my channel, and because they miss their dad or never had a dad, there's just so many different aspects, I think, when it comes to fatherhood, and how people have related to their earthly father, I think. And so, I'm not going to act like I've never yelled at my kids or, but I'm not going to put that up on, in a video. I'm certainly not perfect. I've lost my temper. I haven't always done things correctly, but I've tried to apologize when I've done things incorrectly with my kids. I think that's an important thing as a father, to don't pretend you got it all together, because eventually your kids are going to find out when they're older that you don't. And then I think rebellion happens when people try to pretend they're something that they're not. And so that's one of the things I try to do with my channel too, is try to, again, I think forgiveness is such a powerful, huge thing. And we've got so many people. It's interesting. I was on a local TV, and this was when I was actually in the studio. And when I was driving there, I'm like, what am I doing? I told my wife as we were driving there, I can't believe I'm driving to this studio. I'm terrified to actually be in studio. But anyway, that's not the point of what I'm telling you the story for. But I was talking to the gal that was interviewing me, and I talked about forgiveness and how important it was. And she kind of disagreed with me that, I don't think you can forgive and forget. I'm like, I'm not really talking about forgiving and forgetting. I'm talking about letting it go for your own peace of mind. So you're not carrying baggage into the future, because it's just not productive. And I speak from experience, because I carried unforgiveness towards my dad way too long, way too long. And now freedom on the other side of forgiveness has been huge, and not carrying that baggage. It's like, wow, I set myself free from having to spend energy keeping that plate spinning. And so I talk about that a lot on my channel, because I think forgiveness is so powerful, and we think it's for the other person, and really it's for us.
No, you're exactly right. Um, I love that. And I'm wondering, as you're talking about it, had the forgiveness happen for you before you started the channel, or did the channel and this process take you on a journey of forgiveness for your dad?
Yeah, I forgave him before, and I share that in my book about, but because I was under the impression that forgiveness, I needed to wait for the other person to ask for forgiveness. And, you know, duh. I mean, you come to realize, well, they may never ask, and I'm still spending energy on this thing. I can't wait for that. I need to let it go before he asks. And then he finally did ask, but it was anticlimactic for me at the time. I was like, Dad, I already forgave you. I've been forgiven much.
Yeah.
Uh, and he was an old man by that time, and I felt like I was looking through him. And so it was like, what am I going to beat up a 85-year-old person, and beat him over the head with this? I just kind of let him off the hook. And people have told me that I was waiting for you to give it to him in your book. I was like, it was already done. I didn't have any fight in me for this man. I had more compassion, and mercy for him, rather. So.
Beautiful.
I love that you brought up your book, because I had that as one of my questions that I wanted to ask you. And just, a quick plug for Rob's book. It's called Dad, How Do I? Of course. And it shares important character traits for a good life, your own faith journey in Christ, and then 58 useful how-tos. And I just love that your book embodies obviously everything that you are. So can you tell us, in the process of how you decided, I'm going to write a book, the process of writing the book, and now what it's like being an author and having that out there?
Yeah, I mean, who would have thunk it? Not me. It just came to me because I had people, I had publishers asking me, have you ever thought about writing a book? No. I think anybody and everybody has thought, I should write a book, but you never think you're ever actually going to do it. And so then I had some good offers. I'm like, I think I got some stuff I could share. And so I did 58 how-tos because I thought, I know how people are, and I didn't want to promise 50. So I was originally told to do 50, and I said, let's throw in 8 extra ones. That way, if they see one that was stupid, okay, well, now you got 7 more, or 8 more, and you can. So that was the thinking behind that. But yeah, and I thought when I turned 50, I shared attributes that I learned from my siblings, and so that's why I thought, well, that's a perfect for this book. I think attributes to help you get through life. I think these are some quality attributes. Obviously, my siblings have more than just one attribute, but I kind of singled out one thing that I learned from them. And I talk about that on my Wisdom Wednesdays too. It's important as you go through life, you pick up, even somebody that's a knucklehead in a lot of ways, they can say something wise and you can grab a hold of that, right? And take that. You don't have to say that person's an amazing person and follow everything they do, but they can say something wise and you can take it. And so I thought that fit with everything how I've kind of lived my life. I've tried to learn different things from just about everybody I've met.
How long did that process take you to write a book? Because that seems like super daunting, especially for someone who never aspired to be an author.
Yeah, so I had a ghostwriter. Thankfully, I hired a ghostwriter to help me because I I was never encouraged in English personally. I never felt like I ever could be an author because I always felt like. But part of that was a family situation and just trying to rush through things. I'd be in English and I wouldn't proofread stuff, and so I would just hand it in and it's like, okay, that's done. It's off my plate, and it's like, and then they'd give it back and like red marks everywhere on my papers. And so I never really felt like I was all that good in English. And so I thought I better get a ghostwriter because they're going to want this to come across pretty well. I think I'm a decent writer. I don't think I'm an amazing writer by any means, but anyway, so it was a process. It took, it was kind of on the fast track because they wanted to push it out a year. Basically it came out a year after my channel went viral. So May 18th of 2021 was when the book came out.
I love that process too. That I think a lot of people don't even know that term ghostwriter. So it's like, it's your story. It's inspired by you. You get the say of like, these are the stories that are going to be in here. This is what I want to include. But it partners you with someone who has that writing background so that, just an average person who's not proficient and that maybe like would never be able to write a book can put a book out, and you can partner with someone and they get paid and you get paid and it's your story, and it's just like marrying the two. It's like you don't have to do it all on your own. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that that's possible if they're a creator out there. Like, you can write a book. If you have a book on your heart and you're like, I don't have the skill to write the book, you can partner with someone who does have that skill, and then you guys get to put that out into the world. So I think that's very cool.
You're a great example of when God puts something on your heart to do, He can show up even in the areas that you feel weak and unqualified. And that's one thing that I really love about your channel, that your yes and your willingness to just put yourself out there. It's like God comes in and fills in all those gaps because it's what you were called and meant to do. And He just works in our weakness. And I think your channel is a really beautiful example of that. And just to kind of transition a little bit, you were talking earlier about your channel and your content that you're coming up with is really not coming from a place of, well, let me think of all the things that'll go viral. Like, let me think of the tips and how to's. It's more of a place of coming out of purpose and passion. And I'm curious, because you've been doing this for 4 years. So I imagine coming up with new ideas for even what would be useful or helpful to people can probably get difficult as the years go on because you maybe feel like you've already done it all. And I've seen you expand to, like you said, Wisdom Wednesdays, your dad jokes, financial advice, all different kinds of areas, more than just how to's. Can you tell us what your process is in that? Like how do you come up with new ideas for content? Is it prayer? Is it your friends, your family, your community? Does it come from your viewers? I'd just love to hear about that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it comes from multiple streams. I guess it is, what's been on my heart, something that I feel like I need to share, and I've tried to be real too, because life, So recently, I lost a good friend of mine, and so I shared just a brief tribute to him because he was kind of he didn't never want the spotlight on him. He was always kind of that way, just a good guy, and he was a good friend. I thought I should do a tribute because we lose people.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of life. People pass away, and so the grieving process and the honoring process and all that, I think, is part of life. Because I think there's a tendency with influencers, I think, to pretend that everything's great. Oh, it's always great. Look at me, I'm so great. And all you got to do is believe, and you just won't have any struggles in your life. And that just isn't true. That's not being honest. It's being yeah. And so sadly, I think there's a lot of people, I think there's even Christian teachers that act like that. That's where they say, oh, come to Jesus and you'll have an amazing house and everything, all your problems will go away and you won't be sick. And nah, that's not true. We're promised suffering in this world, but we know that he's overcome the world. And so we can rest in that, knowing that this is temporary. Everything's temporary, you know. This life is temporary. Everything in this life is temporary, I should say. And so I think you can get through just about anything, if you know that. So anyway, all that to say, I've really gotten off on a tangent, but I think it is important to kind of share all of the above, where there's other, just trying to be a good friend and trying to be, these are things that I've tried to do. And I do try to say, I'm not showing you the only way, because there's a lot of ways to do different things, but this is a way. If you need a way, how to iron a shirt, for example. I had people comment on how to iron a shirt. Well, I was told to do the collar before I did the sleeves. Well, great. I'm glad that works for you. I'm not here to sell you. You have to do it my way. If you've never done a way, this is a way, but it's important to have a way, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
ironing a shirt, so that you have a method so you don't miss the sleeves. Right? You kind of methodically go through it, and then, oh, I forgot the sleeves. Okay. Well, if you have a method and it keeps you on track, you remember to do the sleeves.
Well, this takes me
So,
back to your tie video, because I've never heard anybody say don't button the top button. And now I know that there are people that don't button the top button, and the tie totally hit it. And I can share that with my son if he's like, "Mom, this is so uncomfortable. I got a trick for you. You actually don't have to button that top button." But some people
no,
would probably be horrified by that statement.
and I get that. Believe me, I'm sure you can relate. People will tell me so many times that, oh, it should be done this way or it should be done that way. I'm like, man,
You're
great.
missing the point. You're missing
Glad
the
it works
point.
for you.
Yeah.
I'm never saying, I quoted this in the barbecue video. I said, it's not dad's way or the highway. It's a way. This is a way that I'm showing you. You can, and some people get it, but some people are like, no, that's not how you do it. Okay. Glad
Yeah.
you got an opinion on it.
I know, but we're all watching it through our own lens. And I think another thing of why your channel resonates with someone is because fear stops people from doing so many things. And just having someone being like, hey, I'm going to replace this door frame, and I'm not a contractor, but like, here's what I do. And oh, this got messed up, so I need to shave this down. I have a multi-tool, but if you don't have a multi-tool, just grab a razor, grab a utility knife, and just pound it out. Like, you're encouraging them like, hey, look, I'm doing this, so you can do it too. And it just takes a little bit of that fear away, because fear stops us from doing so many things. And I'm sure before you posted that first video where you're like, I've had this idea for 2 years, I'm just going to post this video, I'm sure there was so much fear involved in like, am I really going to put my face on the internet? Am I really going to, and then once it went viral, I'm sure there was way more fear on top of that. So I love that you're kind of taking away that stigma of fear and being like, no, let's do it together. Dad's here. I'm going to help you out.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I would love to hear too from you just what has been the most rewarding part of doing this for you personally.
Because I get people send me private messages and stuff and ask about deeper stuff. And I think my perspective and knowing that, again, Jesus is everything to me. So Jesus is my rock, and knowing that I'm grounded in that. I think I've grown a lot in just trusting him, and I think that also comes from years too. Of again, I'll be 60 this month, and so knowing that he's been faithful all this time, and then now through this, he's been faithful, and I think it's important to give him the credit and him the glory, because if I try to start thinking it's about me, that doesn't end well. I want to continue to the best of my ability to point people ultimately to him, because he won't let you down. People will let you down. Sadly, I've lived long enough to, even people that you think you can count on. I think as believers, we have the Holy Spirit. Well, I know this. We have the Holy Spirit to fight our selfish nature, but people are pretty selfish. so it's really it's interesting as you walk through life, because we just got back from Greece, like I said, and I was kind of down on people after that, because it's like, I just can't. I just want to hang out with my dog. My dog and I, that's just, no wonder they're my dog man's best friend. 'Cause they just kind of unconditional love, want to hang out with you, because there's people on flights and how they, you're on the flight and you're trying to eat a meal, and all of a sudden their chair, whew, I'm like, are you just completely oblivious to the fact that you just about knocked this, or they grab their chair as they're, it's like, that's my chair, it's just people being oblivious and wanting to get off the plane. It's like, we're waiting to get off the plane too. I just can't get out because the person in front of me can't get out. So I got people pushing to get out. And it's like, I was kind of down on people after that. So it's hard, and you put your face out there and people got 1,000,001 comments. And it's like, why am I doing this at times? I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm trying to be helpful. And then you get people, I'm sure you can relate, you get people that just want to, for some reason, tell you how stupid you are or what an idiot you are. Because I get that, believe it or not. I mean, I get comments of like, oh, you are, what a buffoon, who let this guy on the internet. I'm like, really, is that what you're doing with your life? Because I'm trying to and I don't like that about our younger generation. I worry about our next generation, that if you don't have somebody walking alongside you to help you filter through these negative comments that people just feel like they can say whatever they want because there's no consequences. And I was a kid, if you said something like that, you'd expect to, those are fighting words,
Yeah.
they'd say, and I'll knock you out for saying, questioning my character. But people feel free to say whatever they want. And it breaks my heart, because I worry about, because there is a lot of fatherlessness. And so there are people, and you hear about that cyberbullying of people getting beat up for stuff. And if you don't have somebody to say, that's just some knucklehead that doesn't know what he's doing, don't take it personally. If you don't have that and you have those thoughts in your head, that's hard, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%. And yes, we go through that all the time. Poor Maggie, I brought her into that. I think, oh, I've got this. I've been doing this for 5 years. Like, I've heard the worst of things said to me. And I have different seasons where, like, the Lord prompts me to pray for every single person that sends me a negative note. Then it was like, okay, just delete all of them. Now I'm in a season where I heart every single comment, because then it goes out of my queue and I don't have to see it again. There's
Yeah.
times where I don't go in and read them at all, and I just field it out to somebody else, because I'm just in a place where I know the truth, but I just literally can't receive, wherever I'm at, I can't receive that negativity. Because I know at the end of the day, the person leaving the comment, it has way more to do with them than it has to do with me. I'm just triggering something in them. But as a person, man, sometimes it's hard to just hear you're stupid, you're ugly, I hate the way you talk too much, all you do is talk about yourself. Like those are hard things to receive, even when you do know the truth. So like you, I mean, we talk about our faith openly on this podcast. Like if I didn't have Jesus, I definitely would not be able to do this career. And it's still hard and it's still challenging at time, but I still have the truth at the end of the day of that I'm loved, I'm his daughter, like I'm important to him. He created me uniquely. Like he loves that I talk too much. He loves that I'm loud. He loves that I make mistakes. He loves all those things about me. So, but it is continually a process. It doesn't just become like easy, like, oh, yeah, like I'm loved. So negative comments don't bother me. Of course, they're going to get to you and bother you in different seasons. And I think it's funny too that you talked about being an introvert because so many people that I meet that are doing this that feel called like by God to do it are introverts. I'm an introvert. And the fact that I have my face out there for people to judge is crazy. But there's something in that humility of like, I think we know that it has to be God doing this and it has to be God propelling it because I know that I could never do this in my own strength. So I just love your willingness and openness to share about just how much Jesus just affects your day to day and has made you successful in this area. Because I think for a lot of people, they're either scared to say that or they don't know how to say it without offending people. Like we always say, this place like is open to everybody. We like you're welcome here, and I'm sorry if you've ever run into Christians who've made you feel less than, or that if you've been hurt in any way by Christians. I'm so sorry for that, but please know that like we love you and you're welcome here no matter what you believe. So I
Yeah.
just love that you're so willing to openly share that, because I think a lot of times people feel like they have to compartmentalize the two things.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that we have to kind of apologize for how they've been treated by other Christians, because Jesus won't let you down. Sadly, Christians
Mm-hmm.
will let you
Mm-hmm.
down. So,
Yeah.
You just exemplify the title and the role of father and dad, and I think that is why God has just blessed your platform, because you're willing to have those conversations in a loving way. Um, a lot of people don't want to have conversations like that in a loving way. They want to beat people over the head and say, well, you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. And that doesn't win anybody to understand love. And so I'm sure people have just told you this, but I just want to encourage you in that you just really do exemplify the Father's love for the fatherless. And it's obviously something that is desired and needed out there in the world. And I think that shows by the number of people that you have following you. And I think it's beautiful that I think it really shows that you believe that all those people are souls. They're not just followers to be monetized and make money off of. And so, no matter where your content is going in the future, I think the fact that you're so rooted in your faith, and it seems like you have a really strong hold on your identity, and you're willing to share that with this next generation through love and not through um, just what's the word I'm looking for? Help me.
Arguments.
Thank you. Arguments, because I feel like
Yeah.
that's the way of the world today. Is I'm going to win people to my beliefs, my opinions through arguments. And I cannot tell you, an argument has literally never changed my mind.
Yeah.
But leading with love, and I think you're really showing that in action. I think a lot of people say they want to lead with love, but then the actions don't match up with the words and what they're doing. So I just want to thank you for like being a father to the fatherless. And I have a
I
father
know.
and I have a beautiful relationship with my father, but it's always great to see more examples of just the father's love in action. So I
Yeah.
really love it. Thanks for sharing all of
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of that verse that says it's love and kindness that brings people to repentance. And I think so often in today's society, we all have this need to be right. And I love that you're having conversations and you're planting seeds, really. Maybe you'll never know how they're watered or how they grow or, what even happens, but planting seeds, that ripple effect, I think that's occurring with what you're putting out there, with the conversations you're having, the wisdom that you're putting out, and the loving kindness that you deliver it with is really going to impact, like you'll never even know the ripple effect of how that's impacting people, because I think it touches one person and then they go out and do that to 5 more. And it's just, I don't know. I don't think you'll know on this side of heaven how much you're really impacting the world by just your obedience. And I also think you're a legacy changer for your own family, which is really, really beautiful. Um, and the power
Well,
of forgiveness is such a strong message as well. So I'm honored that you would come and share your story with us.
well, thank you. Yeah, like I shared, I had a couple friends, or I had, so my nephew just passed away on Saturday. He's 29 and he's been battling cancer for a while, and sad, it's hard, but he was a solid believer. He's not in pain anymore.
Yeah.
And then I had my other friend who I'd known for a long time. Yeah, he didn't know much, and so we were at the end. I was scrambling because I'm like, and so I said, and I heard this. I think R.C. Sproul said this. He said, "I'm just one beggar trying to show another beggar where to find bread. I'm
Mm.
not trying to pretend I'm anything. I'm just trying to show you that I believe this is true, and you're going to die still. We can win the argument or whatever, but or you might have some fancy arguments you came up with, but you're still going to die. And so we
Mm.
need to get our heads around that, right? I think that's the most compassionate, loving thing I could do. When my friend told me he was passing away because he got cancer, it was about 2 months before he actually passed away, and I could have just said, "Oh, okay," and kept our friendship intact, right? That we never talked about the deep things. But I thought, what kind of, you know, would I be a loving person if I did that, or would I be a loving person to say, I've got to share what I know, with you, and if it offends, so be it. I'm going to do it in the best loving way I possibly can. So that was hard because I want to be liked. I'm like
Yeah.
anybody else. I like to be liked. I don't want to, have people think I'm religious or whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
religious. I'm trying to understand where I came from and where I'm going. And it
Mm-hmm.
all makes sense. If you read the Bible, it makes sense. You look around again, going back to sinful, selfish people, you look around and yep,
Yeah.
everybody's it's everywhere. I don't care
Yeah.
if you're my wife is Filipino, so we've been to the Philippines. The whole place looks completely different than me, but they kind of have the bent towards selfishness. And you go other countries, everybody kind of has this, and we all say it. Nobody's perfect, we all say it, but why? How come nobody's perfect? Okay, well, this does kind of make sense, and yet there's a remedy for it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It is
Um,
beautiful.
and I'm so sorry for your loss in
Yes.
both of those areas, but just thank you for sharing that story with us. And, we'll pray that they're healed. And so you're happy for them. But the reality is here, the ones left behind, we still grieve. And so our prayer for you is that you'll just be comforted while you're mourning and grieving the
Mhm.
loss of two beautiful people
Yes.
in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's tough. It's my sister's son is the one that passed away, and so and he was been married for about 4 years, I think, for 5 years, I think, and so his wife's left behind. It's tough.
Yeah.
And I've always said it's hard to watch loved ones suffer. I'd rather suffer than have to watch somebody suffer, and so that's hard. It's hard for the ones left behind, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that you're still sharing that story because it's stuff that, and it is coming from this authentic place of like, I'm just going to share. And if it helps people, great. And then if this is, I make money or have a career, I know it's so hard to meld those two things together, but our God is so good that like you move and create your content with such a purpose, and it's not about the views and it's not about the money, but God is so good that he knows exactly who needs to see that, and that he can bless you in your finances so that you can also live your life. I think sometimes people have this mentality of like, well, if you're a Christian, you should be giving everything away to the poor and you shouldn't have anything. But the thing is like God uses resource, and God puts resources in people's hands to be pour out and to have things move and help around the world. And unfortunately, we need money and resources in this world to make things happen and make things move. So I think a lot of times when people are putting out, content that does have a lot of purpose, they're like, well, I shouldn't be making money at this. And it's like, but why not? Like, why wouldn't God bless people that you're pouring out to? And why wouldn't he bless the hard work that you're doing? Your content is just so meaningful and purposeful. And I feel honored that I get to watch this process and that you can make a living doing something like encouraging other people, not taking advantage of them, but like you're putting out good in the world. So of course you deserve to get something in return. I think sometimes that's a hard thing for people to connect.
I'm also called to be a good steward.
Right.
I'm not looking, we still drive our same vehicles, my wife and I. We haven't done much. We like to travel, but that was planned beforehand, because we are at that age where we planned well financially too. And so you'll never see me with a yacht. I'll say that. I'll promise you right here, I will never buy a yacht. I think that there's so many things that there's so many temptations in this world of things, and I'd much rather, if I can figure out the best way to turn it around and encourage people and give scholarships or what have you, that would be more of our goal rather than buying a bigger home I don't need it. I think it just brings more problems. There's a song by Switchfoot where he says, do you own your possessions, or do you possess your possessions, or do they possess you? I think that's true. You can suddenly get into this point where they're ruling your life. I don't need it. I don't, whatever we can do. But I do think there is, and so I've tried to look at it as being able to capture some of that money so that I can use it for good, right? For more good, for more things that we can have our hands in to help people. That's ultimately, because that's lasting. Possessions, I've lived long enough. You build a new fence and it looks great for 3 or 4 years, and then it looks horrible, and then I got to repair it, or your car, you're excited about the car, you buy the car, and it's just a car, and I just need something to get me to here and there, so I think having a good healthy perspective on that is important.
Yeah, absolutely. We did a whole episode on generosity, and it's like one of our favorite episodes. We feel it's highly underrated. So if you guys want to go listen to our episode on generosity, it does just blow. That's just another area where God continues to blow my mind, because it's just completely different from the way the world views money, and just like the happiness you get from actually giving things away. And how God blesses just your spirit, and it just gives you so much joy. So I love that.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up and transition to our favorite things, one of my favorite things on your content is your dad jokes. So I just wondered if you had a particular favorite dad joke that you could share with us, and we can end here on a little lighter note.
Got a few though. So have you heard the one about cloning? Are you familiar with this one? Okay. So my son said he didn't understand cloning, and I told him that makes 2 of us.
I'm like already laughing before you told the joke. I love dad jokes so much.
I love dad jokes too. That's why I had to have you tell one, because my favorite thing to watch on your channel. So.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
Well, we told you a little bit ago, we have our favorite things segment at the end of our podcast. So we would love for you to share like your favorite must-have tool or, item that you think everybody should have around their house when they're trying to learn how to fix things.
Boy, there's so many.
I know it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say a cordless drill, but and hopefully tape. I think a tape measure. Surprisingly enough, I think a tape measure is so important, and knowing how to read one and understanding all the different things that, all the different markings and all the different things. I've done different videos on it and why the end of the tape measure wiggles. I've done that. People don't know why it actually wiggles, and people have even fixed the end on their tape measure thinking it's a defect. But
Oh,
you ever wondered why all of them wiggle? There must be a reason.
Oh
There
my
must
God.
be a reason
See?
they move back and forth. So
These are the things that we need.
such good
yeah.
advice.
So,
So we're going to link a tape measure, but we're also going to link his tape measure videos, and I'm going to go
okay.
watch them.
Yes.
I got a few of them. So here's the reason that thing wiggles. Do you know why?
No,
Or
I
no?
don't. So tell
Most
me.
people. It's when you measure the outside of something, you hook it on something and pull it, and that gives you an accurate measurement. But you can't on the inside of something. If you're going to measure the inside measurements, you need to push it against the inside and then pull it back, and that accommodates that 1/8 inch tab on the end of a tape measure. So it wiggles 1/8 of an inch or whatever the width of
Okay.
that end piece is. It accommodates that. Does that make sense? I
That
have a
does
video.
make sense. Well, you know what I just learned a couple of years ago, and it probably was from a video like someone like you, is that most tape measures will tell you how tall the actual box that the tape is stored in so that you
Yeah.
don't have to do all that like you don't have to like scrunch it in there. You can actually just do it from end to end, and you just add those like 3 inches that is the tape box. I'm like, that's so much easier than trying to figure out all this, get it in there. So there you go, more tape measure information. Well, with you being here and you being so handy and like DIY, it took me a long time to get comfortable with power tools and moving into things. And something that I think every homeowner should have, just because it's going to make things easier for you and you use it all the time, is an orbital sander. You can sand things by hand, but let me tell you, it takes forever. And an orbital sander, you can get a really good quality DeWalt one for around $80, and you will use it on so many things, and you will become your neighbor's best friend because you will have one and all of your neighbors will borrow it, and it will last for years and years, and they're very affordable, and you can just use it on so many things. So I'm going to link my favorite starter sander that I had, my DeWalt orbital sander, random orbital sander 5 the hole, and it, you can do lots of things with it. So that would be mine today.
Okay, and I'm going to switch from what I originally thought I was going to do, but
Oh,
my favorite household tool is my little Ryobi battery powered screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
I use it for everything when we're assembling like furniture, or the other day I had to rehang a curtain rod and I used it for that. I mean,
That's very
countless
nice.
uses to
Mm-hmm.
have that little battery powered screwdriver, and they're super affordable and the charge lasts forever,
Mm-hmm.
and we love it. We just like keep it in a kitchen drawer because one of us is always pulling
Mm-hmm.
it out to use it
And
for
it's a
something.
USB lithium battery, so you're already going to have a charger for it. So it's not something where you have to worry about getting a separate charger to be able to charge it. And where is that charger? It's like you can
Yeah.
literally plug in the phone charger to charge that battery.
Yeah, such a great tool.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you, Rob. We appreciate you so much dealing with we had some
We had some
technical
technical
difficulties,
difficulties.
but you stuck it through with us, and we so appreciate it because I think people are going to be really blessed by hearing your wisdom and your story behind the content and your messages on forgiveness and handling grief. It's all so impactful. So we just really appreciate you taking this time today to meet with us here in the Cypress Room.
yep. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being so positive. And yeah, we'll get through it. It looks like it's uploading now, so that's good. So it's nice meeting both of you guys. Yeah, glad to be able to help in any way I can.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dad, for being here. And we will see you guys next time in the Cypress Room.